In a troubling sign for our economy, banks are stockpiling tens of billions of dollars to cover potential loan defaults amid the coronavirus pandemic. JP Morgan, Chase, Citigroup, and Wells Fargo are setting aside a collective $28 billion preparing for defaults by businesses and individuals. Gene Marks is with us now. He's a CPA for the Marks Group and small business consultant. So, Gene, let me start with you on this. So, is this the right move by these banks, or could it negatively enhance the hardship for small businesses and individuals, especially the ones who are having trouble securing loans in the first place?
Yeah, hi, Arthel. I don't think it's a bad move for the banks at all. I mean, banks have to be conservative as to what they think their loan viability is going to be. So them making reserves like this is a completely normal practice. It's a little abnormal now because the economy is so bad. They're actually adding to these reserves. But no, I think it's a good thing. I think it adds to their balance sheets. The bank earnings themselves were not as bad as Wall Street were expecting, even in light of them taking these reserves. And prudent business people think ahead, and they make reserves for these kinds of things. So I don't think it's a bad thing at all.
So, Gene, are these large banks like Chase, Citigroup, Wells Fargo granted additional federal protection if business owners or individuals can't pay back their loans?
So it depends on the loan, Arthel. So as a business owner, if you got one of the Paycheck Protection loans, those are all federally backed. So even if the bank, if you default on the loan, whatever's left after forgiveness, the bank wouldn't have to, incur any liability. But for most other, individual loans, no, the banks are on their own. I mean, they hand out loans to you and me for our mortgages, for cars, to small businesses, and unless they're part of that specific program, most of them they're exposed, and that's why the banks have to reserve for them.
So, according to a report in the Wall Street Journal, these banks are stockpiling this cash to prepare for an unemployment rate that'll remain at double digits into next year, plus a slower recovery in gross domestic product. Assumed 3 months ago. So not only would this be disastrous for so many Americans personally, but if these banks are onto something, Gene, can our overall economy survive financial?
Well, right now, the markets are still fairly positive, Arthel, but the banks themselves, if you're in the banking industry, your whole reason of managing, the whole basis of managing your financials is to avoid risk and to minimize your exposure. So the very fact that they're taking these reserves, it's not a great sign for the economy, but as an accountant myself, it's the kind of thing we recommend to our clients to make sure they're taking these reserves. But you know what, you do bring up an interesting point, Arthel. If you're an individual or you're a small business owner and you think that you may going to be defaulting on your loan, it is really important to be proactive about that. You should be reaching out to your banker now. Just because they're reserving for these loans doesn't mean that you're going to be off the hook. And the earlier you can have a process of refinancing these loans and working things out with your banker, the much better it's going to be for you in the long term, and the much less effect it will have on your long-term credit score. So be proactive if you really think that you're one of the people that might be defaulting on one of your loans.
That's a good point. And is it possible that if you can make some sort of arrangement with the bank, say, for instance, maybe reduce your debt, if maybe they'll forgive or write off somehow a portion of your debt so you can decrease the amount you actually owe the bank?
Writing off the amount, that kind of remains to be seen. But I can tell you this much. The bankers themselves, the bankers that I talk to, many of them are willing to work with their clients. They know that these are very difficult times. They don't want to put debts into default. It is a pain for them to have to go and collect it and send it out and take back assets. So they would like to work stuff out with you too. So again, if you really feel that you're in trouble economically, both personally and in your business, talk to your banker now. There is nothing wrong with doing that. You're doing them a favor and you're doing yourself a favor, and in the long run it'll work out better for both of you.
Okay, very good. So I also was reading in the New York Times, and they are reporting that $130 billion in small business aid still has not been used because owners are becoming reluctant to borrow from the federal Paycheck Protection Program. Some are even returning the money. They're citing the guidelines are too restrictive and the operation is just too chaotic. However, as you well know, Gene, Congress is contemplating additional PPP and what would be a fifth coronavirus stimulus package. But this time around, the PPP would be targeted more for small businesses. And unlike before, those small businesses are not required to retain employees. So this may not keep some people employed, but will it help keep some small businesses open?
So a couple things. First of all, it frustrates me when I hear that business owners are not applying for the PPP loan, particularly when they're eligible. The time of forgiveness now is 24 weeks, Arthel. It's like half a year. Most of the clients I know that have gotten PPP loans, first of all, the process themselves has become much easier, and most of them are going to be getting full forgiveness. And even if you don't get full forgiveness, the amount of the loan, whatever is left over, it's a 1% interest rate over the next 5 years. It's almost free money that you're getting from the government. So if you're hesitant about getting the PPP loan and you're trying to still keep your business going, please don't be. Please talk to your banker and apply. You have until August 8th to do so. To your other point, Congress is considering other changes to the PPP loan. So they're looking to allow some businesses might be to get a second loan in certain industries, like restaurant owners and shop owners. And even Secretary Mnuchin just said to a House committee yesterday that he favors forgiving all PPP loans that are under $150,000. And I've written about that before. I think that's the direction that Paycheck Protection Program is going to go. If you're a very small borrower, you might not even have to go through the process of forgiveness. So please apply if you're still eligible to do so.
Okay, we got the word out. Gene Marks, thank you very much, and we'll be right back.
Thanks, Arthel.